So how exactly are we going to use JSON Web Token to secure the application? So we have to step back a little bit to the initial picture where you actually have the actual client. So the client is what needs to access your secure application. And then you have your application, which is the actual application that is secure, and you want your client to be authenticated to be able to access it. So the first thing that's going to happen is the client will need to send you a request. So that request, they will have to send their username and their password, just their credential, to some login URL. They will send a post request for that. So then what the server is going to do is the server is going to take that information, the username and the password. It's going to process it, make sure the information is correct. And that's the authentication process that's happening right now that we talked about earlier. So once the application can verify that this person is who they say they are, because they know their username and their password, the application will then send them a response back with a JSON Web Token. So the next step is going to be the application. After verifying all the information that was provided, the application will then send back more information to the user with the JSON Web Token. Now that token has been verified and created on the application. So the server, or the application on the right here, is aware of that token. So they know that token, has been signed and verified. Now, what's going to happen is anytime that the application needs to be accessed, now it requires this token. So if the client needs to access the actual application again, it will need to provide that token that was issued earlier at some point when they logged in. So then let's say, for instance, the client needs to access a list of users, for instance. So he needs to send that request back to the server to get all the users. So the client will then take that JSON token that was provided earlier and then send it with that request. So let's say the URL is like /users with a get request to get a list of all the users. So when the client sends that request, it will also have to provide the JSON Web Token, because any request that comes into the application, it needs to verify that there is an actual JSON Web Token there, and that token is valid and verified. So once the server is able to establish that this token has not been tampered with and it's not expired or anything like that, it will then process the request to send all the users back to the client. So that's gonna be the big picture at a high level. It's very simple. You need to log in to get a JSON Web Token. So once you provide your username and password, you're authenticated, you get the token, and any time after that, so any subsequent request to the server, you will have to provide that token to the server to verify you as a user. And then once the application is able to verify that token, it will then process the request and send you the response back. And we're going to implement this whole picture here. We're going to start by building the factory to provide the token, and then we'll test the application. So it's going to be very interesting.